Hello, hello. Welcome to VP Media Pro. I am your host, Quaōcha. Thanks so much for joining. VP Media Pro podcast takes a holistic approach to encouraging and educating aspiring entrepreneurs on the life cycle of business ownership. So listeners will hear open discussions from business experts and community leaders on different business success topics that range from leadership trends, business planning, and so much more. Today's episode is how to transform marketing into a growth engine. I have the pleasure of introducing a savvy marketing strategist who spent more than a decade in the marketing industry. Our guest hails from Chicago and is the founder and owner of Mart, a fractional CMO service for small businesses. I want to welcome to VP Media Pro marketing expert Britt'ni Fields. Hey, Brittni, how are you doing today?
Hey, Corey. Good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited because this is one of my favorite topics, and as we both have something in common, marketing. I love all things marketing, so I am so excited to talk to you and to learn about marketing, but also share with other businesses how they can turn their marketing efforts into a growth engine.
Absolutely.
Yes. And so, because marketing can be so overwhelming.
Yes.
And yes. And so, before we get to that, because I'm so excited, look, I already got into the topic already. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background? Like, what sparked your interest to go into the marketing industry?
Yeah. So my background is actually in music and entertainment. So I went to undergraduate school and studied music. So I've always had a strong love for music. I'm a singer. I play a little bit of piano, acoustic guitar, a little bit, but I'm more of a singer than anything. And so I think just my shyness and not wanting to be in the spotlight kind of steered me into getting a business degree. And so I went to grad school, got an MBA with a concentration in marketing, and thought I could kind of marry the two and kind of work in the music industry doing marketing. And I feel like creative people, like music or entertainment type of people, kind of always, if they don't, music doesn't work out or acting doesn't work out, they kind of always kind of like fall into marketing some kind of way. It just kind of like, it's just another creative field. So I think kind of works perfectly. But I moved to New York City in 2009 after I graduated from grad school. It was kind of the height of the recession. So working in the music industry just did not work out because that was a time where record labels were closing down or reducing quite a bit. Just music was like in a weird space. The music industry was in a weird space. So I just ended up going into corporate America and doing marketing in corporate America and kind of getting that experience there. Worked in corporate America in several different industries doing marketing for, a little over 7 years until I finally ventured into the small business world. So that's a bit about my background and how I kind of started doing marketing.
Wow, nice, right? It seems like we all have this journey or how we got started into marketing because, oh my goodness, I have no background in marketing at all, but tons of experience.
Right.
Yes, tons of experience. And I can't wait to talk to you about a little bit more about marketing. But first, tell us a little bit more about Mark. Like, what ignited the development of this company? How did you get that going?
Yeah, so like I said, after leaving corporate America, I kind of got into the small business world and just took a leap and started doing some independent marketing consulting with small businesses and realized that there was a real need for people that knew not only how to do the tactics and execute marketing strategies, but also figure out the strategy behind the tactics. So like figuring out the plan, doing the research, and really like being the advisor. So there are a lot of options. There are a lot of marketing solutions out there. There's agencies. There's a lot of people that do specific tactics like SEO specialists or graphic designers, but there's nobody at the top that's like kind of managing all of those things. So that's how I got into kind of being a fractional CMO because I had experience in so many different areas of marketing. I knew all of what everything was, but the small business owner did not. So a lot of times you see small businesses kind of like picking and choosing, like, oh, I think I need to do SEO, or I think I need to do social media, but there's no there's no holistic approach to it. There's no strategy behind it. So I was like, well, since I know everything about marketing, I can sit at the top the same way a CMO would at any other company, do the strategy, figure out the tactics that need to be done. So it's an integrated approach. and then execute on those, or connect with other people that can execute on some of the specific things like SEO or graphic design or things of that nature. So I saw a real need for that and ended up wanting to scale what I was doing so that I can help more small businesses. And so that's basically what this business is. It's basically just a fractional CMO service that I'm able to scale and hire other fractional CMOs to then connect with other small businesses that need them.
Awesome. So how can small businesses look at marketing holistically? What does it mean when you say holistic marketing?
So like I said, a lot of times I saw people kind of picking and choosing different tactics. Like you hear, oh, do SEO and this will happen with your business, and they want to jump on that and that's it. Or you see people talking about Facebook marketing, then they want to jump on that and that's it. And while I have seen some very small companies kind of like get started with like one marketing tactic and it really works for them, once you
Mhm.
grow and get larger, you really need to have multiple channels so that you have several touch points going on, because once you get to a certain point, you need to try to touch people in all different areas. So being holistic just means that you are kind of tackling multiple channels. That doesn't mean all channels. It doesn't mean all channels work for every company. Like you need to be able to do the strategy first, the research to figure out what works for your company, and then tackle all those all those channels and tactics in the same way. So putting the same amount of energy into SEO or social media marketing or content development or whatever it is that works for your business, kind of working on like multiple different channels and tactics to really be attacking and figuring out what's working best and what's not, and refining, and as you go along. So
Yeah, thank you for explaining that because I totally agree with that. When it comes to marketing, and then what works for one business may not work for the other business because
absolutely
of the customer base, right?
right. That's
Yeah.
absolutely.
How has the pandemic changed the way business market their products and services? I know that all businesses are different, but I guess what kind of trends have you seen since the pandemic?
Yeah, it's been tough for businesses since the pandemic. Just trying to like transition out of what they were normally doing and get into like this virtual world. Um,
Right.
but a lot of it is really just trying to tackle, virtual activities. So if you were doing in-person workshops before, you're now doing online workshops. If you were, let's say, if you were doing kind of like more door-to-door type of activities or direct, but I have one company that did like a lot of like it was more like sales, but it was kind of linked to marketing a little bit. But we used to create marketing material for them to kind of like go door to door and do different things. But instead of doing that, now we're sending information via email. So it's just really trying to transition out of like that face to face type of activities and moving more into the online digital space.
Yeah. So how can a small business owner maintain that personalization? Maintain customer personalization when everything is pretty much going to the digital space, where we were used to, doing everything face to
Yeah,
face. Now we
yeah.
have to see our systems and our activities online. How can you maintain the personal touch?
Yeah, that is difficult. I can't say that, I can't say that it's not or there's a perfect solution for it. I think we're all trying to figure it out. Even, corporate companies who have employees that have to now work remotely, like they're still trying to figure it out. We get, all this virtual fatigue really from being online all the time, because it really is hard not to have that, personal connection the way that we used to. But I think, the best way to try to tackle it might be just regular communication. So making sure you're communicating on a regular basis, or finding a sequence that works for you and your customers. So if you are connecting with them in a digital space, whether it be through advertising or through sending some type of touch point via email, just making sure you're following up and maybe having some type of drip campaign that, sorry about the beeping, having some type of drip campaign that continues to communicate and connect with your customers.
What is a drip campaign? Like, I know what that is, and
Yes.
I've used it, and it's awesome. Can you please explain what a drip campaign is?
Absolutely. So a drip campaign is basically a sequence of emails that is automated and goes out to a particular set of contacts. And so you set up so let's say you have people that are subscribing to a newsletter, and you have something on your website that says subscribe. After they subscribe, then what? You can manually keep sending them information, or you can put together like a series of 3 to 5 different emails that continue to communicate with them, and it's automated, so it takes the time off of you. But that's what I love most about it, is that it's automated. You set it up once and it's done. You set it in and it's done. So you set up these emails that you want to send to them, like, hey, welcome, thank you for signing up. And then the second email, you can delay how many days or whatever you have in between each email. You might have 3 days in between that first email to the second email, and the second email is like maybe blog post that you've written. The third email might be, hey, are you interested in getting a contact about our services, whatever it is. But you set up those emails, the time in between, and then you set it and forget it, and it's done. So that's a drip campaign.
Absolutely. I love campaigns. But speaking of emails, do you think that I've had a conversation, and I've had one group that say, emails are dying, and then I've had another group that said, no, emails are not dying. What do you think? Do you think that emails are a part of the growth engine, or?
Yeah, I don't think emails will ever die. It really depends on your business, though. And you have to know your customer for sure. Like some customers, depending on your business, they don't want to get a ton of emails from you. But every once in a while, a communication is necessary. So I don't think emails will ever die. The same way, like, people think mail is kind of dying. I'm not sure it will ever go away. It may change and shift a little bit, but it's never going to go away. But it certainly depends on your business, and know your customer and know how often they need to get communication. Maybe it's not every week or every month. Maybe it's every 3 months. It just really depends on the customer, but you need to know them to know how often, to send them communication. But I don't think it's ever going to die.
Me either. I said the same thing, which goes back into the drip campaign that you were just talking about. I am an email. I am pro emails. I just look at that as a way, like you just mentioned, like to maintain that personal touch, to say, hey, I've forgotten about you. And so I love sending out emails just to say, hey, I'm still here, just to maintain just for the long haul. So what are your thoughts? I know you mentioned automation. Is automation difficult to set up?
Difficult to set up. It's difficult for the business owner, I would say. I mean, if you are doing multiple different things and you're running your business, I would advise you to maybe have someone to help you set that up, because it is kind of tedious. There's a lot to it. Even setting up a drip campaign, I mean, there's a lot of different pieces to it. Setting up the emails, creating the copy for the emails, the time in between, the CTAs. I mean, all those things are strategic. So it can definitely be tedious, because it's definitely a system that you have to learn. It's not a simple 1, 2, 3. And every automation tool is different and has different functions and features that you have to learn. So, but for the marketing person that is used to it and does it on a regular basis, it's not difficult.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, what is market research, and why is it important for scaling?
Why is it important for scaling? So market research is really basically just taking a step back from the tactics and kind of taking a deeper look or into several different areas. So a deeper look into your industry, a deeper look into your competitors. A lot of times I've worked with businesses that didn't even know who their competitors were, felt like they didn't have competitors, or just hadn't done any deeper research into what their competitors are doing. But if you don't know what's going on the right side or the left side of you, how do you know how to get ahead of what's going on, or maybe even link with them and partner with them in some kind of way? So researching your competitors. A lot of times when I jump into companies, I research their current marketing efforts. So just kind of taking a look at their performance and what's going on, what's doing well, what's not. So that's kind of like what market research looks like. It could be several other areas as well, but it's really just taking a step back from all the tactics and doing the creative work and just doing some analysis on what's going on around you. And so that really helps you to scale and grow your business, because you're analyzing, well, like I said, what's happening around you, which allows you to pull from other places on what's working, what's maybe not working, what you want to do better, how to maybe position yourself so that you can have more of a competitive edge. And so that when you are building out tactics and strategies on what you're going to do for your marketing, you're able to base it off of something. You're not just basing it off of what you think you should be doing or what you heard somebody else say on TV or on online a couple of days ago. It's really based off of facts, and it's based off of real, just real analysis and real, thinking about what's going on around you.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And what you mentioned about competition, that you can actually link with your competitors. Most business owners and even entrepreneurs are not familiar that they can actually work with those who are in the same industry. How is that possible? In what kind of way can someone link with their competition?
Oh, so again, that kind of depends on the business and what you have going on. So for me, so a lot of times I worked with some companies where their competitors might have a wait list in some way. So this is like for like a medical company. So they had their competitors had like wait lists, but they didn't. So maybe they connected with them and tried to offer, something of value to them. And in return, like, can you share maybe your waitlist customers? Because that is a benefit for, those customers saying like, hey, we can't help you right now, but we know who can help you, versus just kind of like letting them go. Then you offer something of value to them. So sometimes that's, people will take that up and be okay with some kind of partnership like that. Others may not, but that's, those are ways that you can partner together and kind of like work off of each other. I'm trying to think of another example, but it really it's really business to business. But I mean, I really think it's just about relationships, like just building relationships. You guys can always find a way to kind of like build off of each other and provide value to each other in some sort of way. There has to be something that this person is doing over here that this person is not. You can, help kind of, provide for each other. I know, like, for example, like Burger King and McDonald's, they know their competitors, but at the same time, they'll do fun things like on social media or, in advertising to compete, look like they're competing with each other. But it's really like they know what they're doing. Like they've worked together, they've partnered together in some kind of way in the back end. And so now you're looking at both, McDonald's and Burger King competing with each other, doing some fun competition on social media. And you are considering going to either one. Whereas before, like maybe you would have just gone to McDonald's because McDonald's was the only one advertising.
Exactly.
So, it just all depends.
Yeah,
But
I
you
mean,
definitely work together.
exactly. And even what we're doing here today, we're both in marketing. My background is in marketing. I have marketing experience. You have marketing
Mm-hmm.
experience, but we approach marketing differently. And
Right.
so, but yeah, and just the interviewing today, I love your marketing style. So I'm like, hey, I have got to get her on VP Media Pro
Absolutely.
marketing. So in this way, it's just super simple. It's just something like this is, and like you mentioned before, business is all about relationships. And
Right.
so, yeah, it could
And
just
like you said, there's enough for everybody to go around. Like we don't have to be stingy and think that we can get everything. We can't get
exact,
everything. And like you
exact,
said, we have different styles. So one person may like your style while the other may like my style, and that's okay. Like, you know what I
right.
mean? So businesses have to think more like that. And really, you'll get more, by linking with others than just staying on your own.
Yeah.
Anytime you're in community with other people, you're going to get more than just staying solo. So,
Exactly. And I've literally had a conversation with another marketer too. I was like, listen, I am done. I'm just over my head right now. I have
yeah.
too many clients. And, especially if you want to still continue to put out quality work and it's not just about quantity, because like you
Right.
mentioned, marketing can be really tedious and,
Mhm.
you got to research. It's ongoing research. It's literally nonstop.
Yeah, it
You
doesn't
have to
stop.
Yes. So it's like, hey, listen, I have a whole lot of work over here. Let me refer you to, Brittni, or let me refer you
Yep,
to someone else that may be able to assist you in this kind of
yep,
way that I trust their work as well. So absolutely, I'm all for working with and linking with competition.
same.
Yes. So, what are your top 5 tips on how a business can transform their marketing into a growth? And I know you talked about with the drip campaigns and with setting things on automation. Do you have any other tips on how a business could transform their marketing into a growth engine?
Yes. So I think a lot of what we're saying is really what a growth engine is. It's like having a very holistic, integrated approach. We mentioned the research. The research is absolutely necessary to figure out what you're going to do for your marketing that becomes the engine for like moving your business forward. So that's absolutely necessary. The research first. Always focusing on strategy, like not just about tactics, but it's always about being strategic, making sure you're kind of moving in a very strategic way and thoughtful way and analytical way versus just focusing on like the execution. And then, like that strategy will help you pick tactics that are specific and relevant for your business and for your audience. So making sure the tactics you choose, like I said, are relevant for your business. And you're not just choosing something because someone said so or because you heard this new guru on TV, but really making sure you have analyze your target audience. Oh, and sorry, when I was talking about marketing research, I forgot about researching your target audience. That's a big one. Knowing who your buyers are, the buyer journey, like all of those things. And some people have multiple buyers. Some people have, a user, and their user is different than the buyers. Like, for example, if you have a toy company, the user is the child, but the buyer is the parent. So you need to know those things. And really know who those people are, how to speak to them, because that'll really help you fine tune your messaging. I completely forgot that part, but that's a very important part. Is really knowing your target audience because that'll really help you. I guess, like I was saying, kind of like really figure out the tactics that are going to work best for your audience, for your business. Once you figure out those tactics that are going to work best for you, really making sure that it addresses multiple areas of marketing. So marketing is like a huge umbrella of like different areas. So there's SEO, there's social media, there's advertising, there's PR, there's so many different things you can touch on. So making sure you're touching on several different channels, not all channels. Maybe just depending on the right amount of resources you have, maybe it's just 2 or 3 channels. But at least making sure you're kind of like integrated in a way or have some type of holistic approach to it. And it's also really important that you are analyzing the results of your marketing efforts at least on a monthly basis. So in order to like really have that fine-tuned marketing process that is the engine again for your business, you have to be fine-tuning on a regular basis. So if you're just leaving your marketing and you're doing it and walking away and not knowing what's working and what's not working, it's not going to become an engine. An engine is only like going to be when you have analyze it on a regular basis, pulled what's not working, done more of what is working, and really keep kind of fine-tuning that for at least 3, 4, 5, 6 months. It could take up to 6 months to really fine-tune that and figure out what's really going to be the best fits for your company. But once you do that, then you kind of have that engine that's really working. And marketing, I mean, you're always going to be fine-tuning, like you're reworking your marketing plan on a yearly basis. But that analysis is really important to kind of get that engine that's going to work for you. And then I think like the last thing might be just on a yearly basis, like I said, fine-tuning your marketing, like overall, kind of creating that new plan overall based on overall business goals. So business goals kind of shift and change on a regular basis, and so should marketing. Once you do like that yearly review and see like this is what we did for the year, this is what worked, this is what didn't work, then you can fine tune it even more for the next year, so that you're going into the next year even more kind of like fine tuned and more like focused on what you need to do to really again be that engine for your marketing for your business.
Absolutely. So for this engine to work, there has to be a budget, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
so what type of annual budget should be allocated to marketing or
Mm-hmm.
specific digital marketing? Like what would that look like? What would you say to a small business? Yeah, as far as to get the engine rolling, what kind of budget would they need to have?
Oh, so it again, that's kind of business to business as well. And there are free tactics out there. There are definitely free tactics you can do. Free tactics
Mhm.
are only going to take you to a certain point, though. So there is a time where you're going to have to kind of invest and put a little bit of money into it. So it kind of depends. But I like to start with around $1,000 budget a month for businesses, and that's outside whatever you're paying somebody. So if you have like a a person, a consultant or an agency or whoever it is that's doing the marketing for you, that $1,000 budget is outside of what you're paying them. So the $1,000 might be allocated towards advertising, social media advertising, or Google ads, or maybe any content development we have to do, where we might have to, hire a writer, any graphic design work, things of that nature. Like once we kind of figure out what the plan is at the very beginning and do our research and zero in on the tactics that are going to work for us, we can figure out what that budget, how we're going to allocate those funds. But I feel like around $1,000 a month is a decent start.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, the budget, you mentioned social media. And so getting small business owners to understand that $30 it's not going to get you too far.
Mm-hmm.
When you first got started on social media years ago, you can organically reach your audience, but now you really have to pay to play. So how much money would you say at a bare minimum that a small business owner should allocate towards their social media ads?
Yeah, so, and I don't even think this is like all of the small business owners' fault, because there's so much out there that tells you, you can boost that post for $5 a day and you're going to get all these, eyes on it. And that's not necessarily true at all. Actually, it's not true at all, because of the competitiveness of the space now. There's so many people advertising on social media right now, especially Facebook, and it's just far too competitive. I mean, people are putting thousands of dollars a month, and I mean thousands, into these Facebook ads. And so you are at the bottom of the barrel when you're just putting in $5, $20, $30, because they work off of like algorithms and like all these things that, put you first on somebody's news feed. But if somebody's putting in thousands of dollars a month, I mean, you're barely going to be seen, because they're obviously going to be seen over you. So I like to work, I mean, it just depends on the business again. But I like to work with at least around like $300 to $500 a month when it comes to social media advertising, at least if they want to like really be serious about it and really target the people they want to target. And maybe that's just like a month campaign that we try to, analyze that after a month and see if it's really the right fit and if we reach the people that we wanted to reach. But you have to put, at least 500 into it. If you have more, great. But we have just like $100 to play with. Let's not even try it. Let's try a different tactic, because that's not really going to get us far.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad that you touched on that. And how long should these ads run? Is it 30 days at a time, or is that, do you recommend it at least 7 days or to run these ads?
Again, this depends on the ad, but I've seen ads run for at least 7 days. If enough money is put into it, you can definitely get some traction within 7 days. You're going to get more traction over 30 days, because something about the way the algorithms work, and if Facebook is kind of fine tuning on their end too. Like once they're saying who's touching your ad after a certain amount of days, and they fine tune the amount of the type of people that are going to continue focusing on it based on what they saw within the first 5 or whatever, however many days. So doing the 7 days doesn't give even Facebook enough time to really see and fine tune who the eyes are putting on your ad. But like I said, I have seen some traction within like a 7-day campaign. But I like to do 30 days just because it gives you more time and more data to analyze.
Yeah. Is it difficult to rank in Google?
Is it difficult to rank on Google? I would say yes, only because there's a lot of parts to it. There's a lot of pieces to trying to rank on Google. This is where you need somebody's help to help you do that, because there's SEO components to it. If you have a brick and mortar, there are Google My Business components to it and things that you need to do on Google My Business. There's, a lot of things you have to do on the back end on your website to make sure that Google is crawling your website properly. That's like things in Google Counsel and Google Analytics. It's a lot of different parts to it. It gets confusing for the person that's not doing this on a regular basis. The business owner cannot do all those things. Like they might try to register their business with Google and the different search engines, and that's it. But they're missing so many other parts too. Like I said, there's SEO components, there's, Google Counsel, there's Google My Business. There's so many different things that you have to do to make sure you're ranking. And it takes time. Like it takes a long time. Like it's not just like you do these couple things and like, boom, you're at the top of the list. Like, no, it takes time for Google to realize that you know who you are, that you're a reputable business, that people want to see you, and then they start boosting you up a little bit here and there. Like it takes time. It's a long term game. It really is. There's content marketing that's a part of it. So putting out relevant and helpful, useful, keyword rich content that helps to boost you on Google. So there's so many pieces to it. So I don't want to say it's difficult. I mean, it's somewhat difficult just because I said there's a lot of moving parts to it. But someone that has experience doing it can definitely, move things on further than a business owner could.
Absolutely. How effective are having like brand advocates, someone who leaves a review on Google? How effective is that as far as ranking on Google? Will that help at all?
It absolutely helps. So, I mean, just think about yourself when you're researching something, researching a business you might not be familiar with, a service, whatever it is. Looking at what other people are saying is definitely something that helps move you along further. Is it the thing for everybody? No, there's there's several different components to somebody researching your company. That is one of the things that's certainly going to help, push you, boost you up on the list. So if you're a business that has competitors with 30, 50, 100 plus Google reviews and you have none, I mean, you're likely gonna have to do a lot more work on maybe the sales side or whatever other side to try to to push them over the edge. Because if I'm a daycare and I'm trying to looking to have my child at your daycare, if I see that ABC Cares over here has 50 reviews and they're all positive and families really love them and they're saying great things, I'm likely going to be shifted on that side versus the other side, unless you do all these things on the phone and kind of sell me. But it still might not, push me over the edge. So it definitely is super helpful. It's always kind of like that. I don't want to say bandwagon approach, but just always kind of like wanting to jump on what other people are doing that they think is, great
Yeah.
or that they're talking about. So it certainly is. It's very useful, very beneficial.
Is should a small business owner still put funds into the traditional marketing, or should they
When
spend most of their time in the digital space?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it should all be varied. Yeah. So, like I said, when you were kind of doing your research at the beginning and figuring out like what strategies and tactics to approach to kind of have a holistic approach, traditional marketing could definitely be a part of it, and it just depends on your business. Like you could, if you have a B2C type of business, I think traditional marketing is definitely an option for you. There are definitely some options there that could work for a B2C type of business versus like B2B. B2B, might not do as many traditional approaches. They may be more digital than other businesses. But again, it just depends on the business. But certainly, it's not dead.
Do you, and one more question about boosting. You mentioned boosting as far as social media. Do you think that boosting is effective or ineffective?
Um, I think it's effective or ineffective.
Yeah.
I think it depends on how much money you put into it. And also, my experience with boosting is that you're not able to target the customers that you want as much. Like it's pretty much elevating the post to people that are already within your network or maybe friends of those people. So you're
Mhm.
not getting much further outside of that. So it's slightly restrictive. It just depends on what you're going for. It could certainly be useful. I have definitely seen it help a little bit, but it doesn't do a great deal. So it just kind of depends on what your goal is.
Yeah, I always to me it just seems as if boosting ads is like a waste of your marketing dollars. You know,
I mean, it's
absolutely.
not as effective. It certainly isn't as effective as just a regular ad campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your take on YouTube? I know that automation is appears to be an awesome trend that business owners should take advantage of as far as the growth engine and video marketing. What are your thoughts on video marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I love video marketing. I think it's very useful. I mean, people it's easier for people to watch things versus reading,
Yeah.
especially with the way, social media works and just online activities work. Things, people are going from here to there, moving quickly and just needing to like consume information like really quickly versus sitting and reading something for 30 minutes. So it just mixes things up. It's definitely a nice uh, piece of content to throw into the mix of all the text. So I like video marketing.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's something that business owners should try to implement into their efforts, although it can be difficult sometimes because it takes time. It takes time. It takes, the people, if they need to do kind of like more intense type of videos with like employees. I mean, that's a lot, that's a drain of resources. So it's hard for me to get people on board with that sometimes because it definitely takes time. But it's helpful.
What do you think brand consistency is important to an overall growth engine?
Brand consistency is really important because you you don't want to put one image in the mind of somebody of a customer or prospective customer and then throw something else out there that confuses them, and then allow them to kind of like put together their own image of you, or just confuse them in a way where they don't even know who you are, so they end up moving along. So you want to make sure that you um, just have that same imagery, that same type of content, that same style, that same tone throughout everything that you're doing, throughout your content on social, on the digital world, on your website, marketing material, whatever it is, you want to show up the same way so that people, start to um, you start to put a stamp or an imprint on who you are in people's minds. And also like if you're really good with it, it's almost like a certain product or thing becomes synonymous with your business. For example, when you think of fast food burgers, you probably think of McDonald's because they have gotten so good. They got so good at just like branding who they are. And that's just what you think of. If you think of, you know, or back in the day when it was really popular, you would think of those like polo shirts. As the crocodile brand. Like that's something that I always thought about because they got so good at like kind of like branding who they are. So, being consistent can really pay off in that way where a product or a thing becomes synonymous with your business. So it's definitely really important because if you're not consistent, like I said, one of the downfalls is that people will create their own image of who you are, or just get so confused that they fall off and go somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. And we definitely don't want that at all. Do you think that surveys can be a part of the growth engine?
Surveys.
Yes.
So like asking people for their
Feedback?
experience with your business. Okay, feedback. Yeah, for sure. For sure, that's definitely part of the customer service, right? And that's all part of a touch point that has to do with somewhat, it's a touch point. So I'm not going to say it's marketing, but it's a touch point. And it kind of will help you kind of fine tune some things. So if you see that, in the feedback, people are saying anything related to marketing, you're able to fine tune that or fine tune your customer service for them. So I think it's definitely useful. Definitely and then anytime you're just only thinking about what you think is best, I think that's where you get a little like you're not doing as great as you could be doing because it's not about what you think is best. It's obviously about your customer because that's the person that's consuming your product
Right.
or buying your service anyway. So you want to know what they're thinking because a lot of times what you think is going to work is really not going to work, and you end up having to fine tune anyway once you see what's really being consumed. Once the customers actually start touching it. So absolutely getting customer feedback is super important because that's really going to help you really get clarity on like what is really important and what's really working and what's not.
Yeah, speaking of some of the companies that you've mentioned, McDonald's, Polo, and countless others, over time, they have actually rebranded themselves. How important is rebranding when it comes to the growth engine? And how often should a small business rebrand themselves?
Yeah, so consumer buying trends are always changing. I think it's like every 2 or 3 years I heard that there's always kind of like this huge shift in the way that consumers buy or just consume, just depending on what's going on. So, example, right now, I'm sure that many companies are rebranding right now just because of the pandemic and the way that we're consuming things. We're not consuming things the way that we used to. We're not going out to stores the way that we used to. We're all online. So,
Mhm.
a lot of people are shifting and changing right now, even. So, I think it's all a part of that analysis that you do on not only a monthly basis, but also at the end of the year. It's all a part of that analysis and just saying like, okay, what is working, what's changing, what's different, what should we do different? Should we keep doing the same things? And just keeping an eye out on like consumers and how, what the trends are, what's changing, what's not changing, and just being mindful of what's going on around you. So it's definitely useful to rebrand. It's definitely helpful. You have to stay fresh. You have to stay on top of things. Again, consumer
Mhm.
buying, behaviors are always changing. So how often should they do it? I think it really depends on the company. I mean, like I said, 'cause I think I read that the stat was that consumer buying behaviors, kind of shift every 2 to 3 years. So maybe around those, every 2 to 3 years, that's when you're looking to see like, should we shift? Should we not? Are we okay? Should we refresh anything? But I definitely think, you shouldn't sit on the same type of brand imagery or logo or whatever it is at, 5 or 10 years. It's
Right.
definitely useful to at least do some sort of shift every 5 years or so. But again, I think it's just like, being aware of what's going on with your customers and what's going on in your industry and just the trends around you.
Yeah, let alone, I've definitely spoke to small business owners. Speaking of, changing with times, they've, received their customer base from, one way, which was word of mouth. And so they look at the digital space like, hey, I don't need to, to go on digital. I don't need social media. I don't need any of that stuff. I don't need an email. I've been doing quite fine. I've been, a profitable business. I've been in business for a long time.
Mhm.
Uh, because of word of mouth. What kind of advice or recommendation would you give to a small business owner who may have that kind of approach to marketing?
Yeah, so I've worked with companies like that. And listen, word of mouth is great. I definitely think it's a great tactic. Um, if you get a friend or a colleague or whoever it is to refer something to, you're likely going to move forward with that. But I also think there are other components to somebody researching who you are. While getting a referral is definitely going to boost you to the top of the list, I'm also looking at what you look like online. That's part of, the touch point that I look at to figure out, how I grade you. I'm also looking at, do you, it just all depends on the business, but like, if you have any reviews, I might be looking at like if you're a restaurant, what does your menu look like compared to what another menu looks like, another restaurant's menu. So does it look nice and clean and upbeat and pretty, or is it like kind of messy and like it just all depends on the business. But there are different touch points that people look at to grade and review your business. And again, word of mouth is great, but if you only have word of mouth and the other areas of your business is not on point in the same way that person referred you, it may almost put you down a notch and then make you have to do more work on the sales side or whatever other side to push that person over. So if you have that word of mouth piece, but then you're also, you have a website that's up to date and is a kind of a 24-hour salesperson for you. If you have, your marketing material on point and, all kind of matching and being consistent, you're doing less work. Like you have that person refer you, you had your website on point. So when the person gets that referral, they then go to your website and like, oh, okay, they are good. Then they go to this area over here and they say, oh, okay, this is okay, this is good. That's it. I'm done. I'm gonna go with this person. You've done no work now. That's it. So word of mouth is great, but those other pieces are necessary as well because people are not only grading you on that one piece. So like I said, I worked with a company who had that same kind of mindset. Their website was just a wreck because they were only like, well, we do word of mouth and we have this salesperson that's like really going out there and driving the sales for them. But there's the sales cycle for their salesperson was over a year. It took over a year for that salesperson to try to, this is a B2B company. It took over a year for that salesperson to try to get somebody to sign on, sign the dotted line and become a client. But once we
Yeah.
redid once we redid their website, once we kind of reorganized their digital presence, like on social media, their thought leadership, things of that nature. Once everything was consistent and looked great online, their sales cycle reduced like almost in half. So before, when it was taking their salesperson over a year, it went down to like 5 or 6 months that it would take her to sell something, because she's doing less of the work now. Now, when somebody gets that referral and then they're going to the website, they're seeing everything they need to see. They're getting all the answers they need answered, or the questions, they're getting all the questions answered that they need. They're, seeing everything consistently. Everything is making sense. So it's taking less time now for the salesperson to then do their job. So definitely necessary to have more than just word of mouth, and to at least be consistent on other areas as well. So you're doing less work on other ends.
Yes, and speaking of the cycle of a customer to obtain a customer, what are your thoughts on retaining uh, the customers? We talked about acquisition, and one question I have for you is the customer lifetime value. To me, I've definitely had conversations with small business owners who put a lot of emphasis into acquiring customers, as far as their, efforts for growth engine. What are your thoughts on retention?
Yeah.
And can you explain a little bit of customer lifetime value and what that means?
Yeah. So it takes more money to acquire a customer than it does to retain one. When you have to acquire, and I'm not saying don't spend money on acquiring customers, because you definitely need to do that too. But I think a lot of times people forget about the customers that they do have, and not really utilizing those customers in the way that they could. So if they put a little bit more effort into making sure the current customers were feeling good, were continuing with services, maybe had any issues ironed out that they might have, they can use those current customers to then do the work to become evangelists for their business and then start referring them. So they're spending less money on the acquisition, and having their customers do the work for them. So I definitely think that's an area that's forgotten, um, and definitely something that people need to focus on a little bit more. And again, I'm not saying don't do the acquisition part, but just shift the budget a little bit so that you are doing some retention type of marketing as well.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that, 100%. So as far as like customer loyalty, is that a part of the growth engine too, or to add to the CLV?
Yeah, so that's all a part of retention and getting that customer from not just like being a buyer, but now kind of what does their journey after that look like? What does it look like when they get to a place when they can start referring you and really being a loyal customer and being a repeat buyer? That's definitely part of the journey that people forget about. It's more than just we do all this work to get them in the door, they sign, and then that's it. There's a journey after that as well, and part of that is becoming the loyal customer, and being repeat buyers, and then becoming the evangelist, that the person that is speaking to others about your business and your service and is referring you.
Yeah. Why do you think that mission and vision are important to the direction of the market research and planning?
Ooh, mission and vision. I think it really sets the tone for who you are. I think it's really helpful internally, because it again sets a tone for who you are, and it kind of gives you a foundation, and it gives your employees a foundation and some sort of purpose, really, on how they are seeing their work and how they're working, so that they can execute on things more strongly, and with more passion or purpose, like I was saying. So I think that, again, if your employees are touching marketing in any kind of way, having that mission and vision kind of helps them to kind of work with more of a focus, more of a purpose, which then will, trickle down into the marketing and the work that's being presented to your customers. It can definitely help externally as well, like with prospective customers, just saying who you are. A lot of people do care about who you are and they want to work with businesses whose mission and ideals align with theirs. That could certainly work depending on the business that you have, that can certainly be helpful. But yeah, it just gives people that foundation. It helps them. If people care about who they're aligning with, then that can certainly help push them over the line.
Yeah. So you just mentioned about employees. How can employees become a part of that market research for a company to grow and scale?
Yeah, I think a lot of times all hands on deck is super important. So sometimes your person that's doing customer service over here is definitely going to have some insight into who your target audience is, or what questions that they're asking, or what's important to them and what's not important to them. Your salesperson is certainly going to have some insight into, what they're seeing with the target audience, or what they're seeing with competition. Those are just a couple of examples, but there's definitely other people who touch the customer, or maybe are out there seeing the competitors or the industry in a certain way that the marketing person isn't. So everyone's insight is definitely important. Definitely.
I totally agree. So we have spoken to Britt'ni Fields, marketing expert, is talking about how to transform marketing into a growth engine. This has been an amazing conversation. And so please tell us, outside of serving as a CMO, outside of researching, what are a few additional things that you enjoy doing?
Yeah, so I talked about at the beginning that I am a music person. So I love music. I love all things music. If I had it my way, I would probably do music full time, and kind of do marketing on the side. But marketing is, what I enjoy right now. And so music became more of just like a passion and a thing that I do on the side. But I love music. Love
Are you a
spending time.
vocalist?
I'm a vocalist.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I love spending time with my family too. I have a family, I have a husband, 3 children, 3 little people. So we spend a lot of time together. Right now it's a little bit difficult. We can't go out as much, but traveling was a fun thing to do before the pandemic. But those are a couple of things I like to do. Yeah, just socializing and having fun, finding new experiences.
Yes. So for those of you who are listening, please tell us, how can we contact you? How can the listeners contact you?
Yeah, so I would just give them my website, which is just one way to see all my social handles at the bottom in the footer. So the website is bemarked.co, bemarked.co. And all of my social media handles are in the footer of the website.
Awesome. Is there any takeaways before we conclude today's episode? Is there any last remarks that you would like to share?
Oh, last remarks. I would say, listen, marketing is so necessary for your business. It's fun, but it's complex. So get help with it when you can. And don't only focus on the creative side of marketing, which is like the things to do, the social media posting, the content, creating content. But the data, the science of marketing is so, so important. So if you work with somebody, make sure that they understand what the data is, or what it means to research data and analyze that, so that you can fine tune the creative side of things and really, like we're talking about, have that growth engine that helps drive your business goals.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, for those wisdom and marketing tips and strategies. And well, listeners, that is it for today. Thank you, Brittni, for your time and
Thank you.
sharing with us how to transform marketing into a growth engine. It's been a pleasure talking to you today. It's been a pleasure talking about one of my favorite subjects. I'm sure those who've listened learned so much. I know I did. I know I did. Be sure to like and follow the Village Project on social media. We're actually active on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. To catch a recap of today's episode, leave a comment and let us know your takeaway from today's episode as well. Also, subscribe to the mailing list at www.villageproject.net to receive notifications on when new episodes post and so much more. Again, thank you all for listening. Thank you so much, Brittni. And as always, grind hard, but self-care harder.
Love it. Thank you.